Stephen Neal, welcome to Blood Time. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's great. And Joey Krebs put us together, which is interesting because I was on Scott Casper's show a few years ago, and Joey works for him on the West Coast. And he said to me, he goes, I got West Coast down. I go, Stephen Neal. That's the one I want to talk to. So you're my first West Coast guy. Well, actually, we've had Lee Kemp on and a few others from the coast. But back when I started Wrestlers of Business with one of my athletes, Aaron Grossman, I coached him in high school. Matt Gaffari was at the very first event that we did to kick off Wrestlers of Business Network. And that's why you are basically ended up being in the NFL. Am I right or am I wrong?
100% correct. Yeah, he introduced me to Neil Cornrich, my agent, and it was weird. We were in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania at Bruce Baumgartner's camp, and he said, Steve, I know you always talk about wanting to play football. I know an agent. And we left the camp early, and 4th of July, met Neil Cornrich in 2001 and started the process.
Well, Neil and I go back to, we were both 12 when we first met each other.
Okay.
In junior high school. It was called junior high school back then. And Neil ended up wrestling. We both wrestled for Beechwood High School on the east side of Cleveland. And then Neil grew up to be Neil, right? And, and I coached for 20 out of the 45 years I was able to coach. And Neil is also my nephew's agent. And my nephew is the safeties coach at Ohio State, Matt Guerrero. Yeah, he was the DC under Cutcliffe over at Duke for like 7-8 years, and Jim Knowles. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. That's great, But Stephen, your story is amazing. You, tell me if I'm wrong, didn't play a down of football in college. Am I correct or am I incorrect?
You are correct. Cal State Bakersfield, they don't even have a football team.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last time that you played football was in high school before you played in the NFL.
Yeah, I played in high school. I really wanted to play in college. I just didn't have any opportunities to go Division I. And then wrestling gave me an opportunity for Division I, and the school I picked didn't even have football. So
right,
just put all my eggs in that basket of wrestling. But I still had a desire to play football. I just didn't know how it was going to work out. And
Right. And you came from the golden age of heavyweights. I mean, you had Kerry McCoy, you had Steve Mocco, you had Tommy Rowlands, Brock, you beat Brock. Holy cow, right? I mean, those are the top. I mean, if you talk about the top 5 scorers in the history of the NCAA, that's right. Those are the names. And you, I think you're number 3 out of the whole list or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, we had Bruce Baumgartner was our heavyweight freestyle, and Tom Erickson was there. Tully Thompson. There was some dudes for sure.
Tully was out of Nebraska, right?
Nebraska, yes.
Yeah. So Neil gets you, right? He gets you. He says, okay, I got this wrestling, right? And wrestling, obviously, Bob Golick he was a friend of mine in high school, ish, if you will. And so Bobby, he wrestled for St. Joe's in high school, and he wrestled a guy by the name of Tom Cousineau at St. Ed's, which was like the Holy War back then. And they both end up playing in the NFL on the same team at the Browns. But they both say wrestling really got me. Bobby was a middle guard-ish kind of thing, and Cousy was a middle linebacker. But you could just see that they had the leverage they had. But one of the things that I noticed in your other interviews is you said that you really didn't understand angles. You didn't understand the football-ish thing, but you understood how to put your hands on guys. So tell me a little bit about that dynamic that occurs from the transition of being an elite world-class wrestler to an elite, best-in-class football player, world-class.
I think the toughest thing was the transition from one-on-one to 11-on-11.
Yeah.
If you just pointed at a guy and said, hey, block him, push him back, don't let him to the quarterback, I could do that easily. But you're in a 3-point stance, these guys shift, and it's like, okay, which guy do I have? Who am I working with? So that was the transition. It took a few years for me to get all that kind of stuff down.
Yeah.
The first game I played in, it was preseason. We were playing the Giants. They had just taken second to the Ravens in the Super Bowl in 2000. Okay. So we're playing in preseason, and the offensive line coach says, Steve, you're probably not going to play this game. So I'm like, okay, great. Yeah. It turns out it's the fourth quarter, and he's like, Neal, get in there. So This is not a joke. I'm sitting here. I was playing right tackle. The right guard's name was Josh Rawlings. Okay. And I'd get my finger in the ground and I'd look to him and say, who do I have? He'd say, that guy. And then I'd just go block him. So, I mean, I could do all the physical stuff, just that mental aspect of things changing and who do we have. And that took.
It's interesting that people don't understand it, but like, when you listen to great athletes, you got to be thinking 1, 2, 3 moves ahead, but also to wrestling, right? You got to be chain wrestling. You got to have that kinesthetic awareness, understanding where you're going to be, how you're going to be there, why. And when you do it 10,000 times, you just get it naturally. So you had to pick that up, but probably you had a little bit of a leg up because of the leverage, the core strength, the ability to put your hands on people, and understanding that. But the audibles, right? So I played center in the Stone Age in high school. Stephen. So I used to call crazy. We actually called audibles, and I was a center. So I called. So who was that guy on the line for you guys at the Patriots that called the audibles or gave the line signals, if you will?
Well, Tom would always. He's one. He could change the play. I mean, you go through the line stream. It should be 4 different plays.
Okay.
And then our center would make a generic call, and then as a guard, you're relaying or you're giving a call to the tackle, because it just depends on who you're working with. Because if it's a straight block, it's the tackle and we're going. So everyone's making calls. You have to really pay attention and listen. A lot of people, they're always saying, was there a lot of smack talk on the line? It's like, no, man, we're communicating with you. I don't even hear what those guys are saying. I'm trying to figure out what to do. So
a lot of complexity there.
It's way more complex than I thought. I thought we're just going to show up and play the game, and way different.
Right. What did you really like about football as opposed to anything else that like surprised you, that you really, man, this is really digging. I'm really digging this.
There's several things. Wrestling is such a great individual sport.
Sure.
But when you win, your practice partners, your coaches, they don't get a medal. Only you do.
Yeah.
And in football, it is so great. You have a team of people, the trainers, the coaches, the backups, the practice squad, the starters. Everyone gets celebrated with the ring. And I think that's the coolest thing. I mean, think about all those workout partners you have in wrestling. Without them, you're not winning the gold, and they should be recognized. So that was probably one of the best things about the whole football experience. And then I really enjoyed each week, the practice schedule is pretty similar. Like you're putting in the run game on Wednesday. You have more of a pass game on Thursday, but the opponent's different. So you have to study a different opponent, even though you're going through the same schedule. And that was it really helped me to keep my mind active. Like I really enjoyed the challenge of learning, okay, this is how we can beat these guys. And this is what, how we can beat the next guys. And so it was very fun each week and different, even though it was the same schedule.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I used to make mental note of is my blocking assignment. Could I keep him from making a tackle or making a sack? So was that something that you also kind of said, hey, I want to make sure that I got that? I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, 100%. You don't want to be the guy that gives up anything. Unfortunately, it's a long game, and those guys are getting paid a lot. They're really good. Yep. So you just kind of, move on to the next play. Wrestling's a little easier as far as like I made a goal. I wasn't going to get scored on my senior year.
Yeah.
I was good. I didn't give up one takedown. I gave one reversal. It's like, dang it. But, you'd like to do that in football, but man, it's a tough thing to do. And sometimes you're blocking the guy fine, and the quarterback runs out, and it's like, what happened? Because he's flushed from the other side. So having all those guys out there on the field is a different experience. 11 huge men against 11 huge men, 22 big bodies falling everywhere and banging into you. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's like a car crash every play almost. It's insane. But I was at. You won it in 99 and 2000 or 2000 and 2001. What years?
98 and 99.
98 and 99. So 99, it was in Happy Valley, wasn't it? Penn State?
Yes.
Is that when you beat Brock?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was at that one, I remember. And then 98, where was that at? That was in Cleveland, right?
Cleveland, yeah.
Well, I was head of security there.
So were you?
Yes. I had a beautiful memory of talking to Jeff Blatnick the whole time.
Mm.
Just a wonderful dude, And I remember I was in the middle mat with my buddies, because it was the Greater Cleveland Wrestling Coaches and Officials Association that donated everybody's time, right? And so I was, I guess, one of the guys there. But anyhow, there was two semis going on, and Joe Williams was, I think, on one of the mats against another guy, and Timor Terry and another, and there were studs, 4 studs.
Yeah.
They both came together, came off the mat at the same time, and Jeff was there. He's protecting me because I'm about 35 soaking wet. And he's like, I got you, coach. I'm like, okay, cool, bro. So anyhow, it was pretty cool. But I remember that was also Cale's senior year, wasn't it? That he won his 4th that year?
No, in 99 was Cale's first year. His first year. First year. So
who won it? Was it Mitch?
Mitch Clark won it. Yeah, Mitch Clark beat Birch Jones by 15 in the first period.
Yes, he looked like he was drilling. Am I right?
Yeah, with 3-point near fall, not 4-point and 3-point takedowns. That's really impressive.
Who did you beat that year?
I beat Trent Heineck from Iowa State. He upset Aaron Richardson. He upset Shelton Bench. He knocked all these guys off. And then it was kind of a mismatch. I was way more athletic than him, and I knew it. And so I made sure it wasn't close. So
what? And you did. You said you were just fantastic. And one of our friends that started Wrestlers of Business with us is a guy named Tim Cortad. Do you remember that name, Tim Cortad?
Oh yeah, Tim from Ohio.
Yeah, from Ohio University. Mm-hmm. He was one of our founders of Wrestlers of Business, and he was also been on Blood Time too. So he was a good set. He wrestled for Aurora High School, which was one of our big rivals, and he was a state champ there too. But that said, he also had the same kind of thing. He wanted to play football, but wrestling was his thing. He was able to do that. But one of the things that really was exciting for me as a wrestler to hear, and also a football player, was that after the last Super Bowl, I think they interviewed Bill, right? And they said to him, Coach, who's the hardest worker you ever had as a coach? And everybody's saying Julian Edelman, right? He goes, no, not even close, Stephen Neal. You made us all very happy, dude.
Oh, nice. Well, I think he saw where I started and where I, just to make that gap. I really wanted it, and I was very grateful they gave me the opportunity to learn. It took me a few years, but they gave it to me. So,
well, you were a folk hero for a lot of us. I mean, when Neal told me that I got this, he called me up. He says, "You won't believe, but Stephen Neal's going to play for the Patriots." I go, I don't understand why that doesn't happen more often, right? Like Brock couldn't translate. Like right now, Gable's doing that. He's trying to do that, right? Tell me why that's such a tough transition for such an elite athlete like yourself or Gable or Brock, to make that transition.
Well, I have a few theories on that. The one is for Brock. I think if he hadn't had the success he had in the other sports,
sure, he
might have got an opportunity to stay longer. So you don't want to go up to the media as a head coach and they're all asking, how come Brock Lesnar's not on the field? It's a distraction. So I think that kind of hurt him. I think if he could have had a little longer, he could have transitioned. For me, I was very fortunate that I didn't make the Olympic team and win the Olympics or have success, because that might have had too many questions for Bill. Hey, how come Stephen Neal's not out there? And it's like, I don't want to deal with this distraction. So I think that's a big factor. And then also, you kind of have to have the attitude of, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go out there and give everything I have. I've seen some players, they go, and as soon as you're in practice and they stop halfway, oh, I messed up. And it's like, you can't stop. Mike Vrabel gave me the best advice. He's like, Steve, you're going to make a bunch of mistakes. Make it 100 miles an hour. Just go hit someone every play. And it's like, okay, I can do that. And so I had some really good advice, and I was going to give everything I had, and they saw that, and they allowed me to stick around.
That's such a great encapsulation of what I was going to. I knew that question was going to be answered that way, and it was beautiful. I really appreciate it, and the laser focus and the intensity of that sport. I see what my nephew goes through. Oh my God, he is just laser focused. So I want to talk more about that and also a couple other things, but we got to take a break. And we'll be back literally in 2-3 minutes. Okay,
sounds great.
All right, we'll be back with Stephen Neal from the New England Patriots. This is Coach Cimoroni from Blood Time.
Infinite Search Solutions, recruitment and placement search services at its finest. Northeast Ohio's premier, easy, fast, and simple way to find the great and perfect candidate that you deserve. Matt Burns and his incredible team at Infinite Search Solutions are terrific. We are proud to have them as a sponsor. Reach out to Matt at 440-249-0485 or at their website, www.in-finite.com.
Rock your brand like never before. From videos that captivate to podcasts that engage, we bring the quality. Unforgettable stories start here with BVS Film Productions and Premier Podcast Productions. Contact us today for more information.
And we're back with Stephen Neal. Stephen is fantastic first segment. And, you know, one of the things that I created this blood time for is that I had these moments with these athletes, and they would come back to me and they would say, "Coach, you changed my life. You saved my life. You know, blah blah blah, whatever." And I said, "Well, what did I do? Or what?" He says, "That's something that you said, or something that you believed, or something that I just felt it from you." And then what they did with that transformation. So I call it blood time. It's when the athlete and the coach both are transformed, they become family, right? But then what do they do with that in the real world? Now, I don't know if Matt Ghaffari was that or Neil Cornish was that guy that transformed you into a football player, or your desire, or a combination of it. But was there anybody in your life that really transformed you? And then obviously I know what you did with it with football, but now what are you doing? I think that you're coaching now. Am I correct?
Yeah, I help out at Poway High School down here in San Diego. They've had a pretty good run this year, but I think some of the guys are a little complacent, so we got to kick them in the butt and make sure we get them going for Fargo. But yeah, I would say I've had several people fulfill that role for me. The one big one early on is my college coach, Daryl Pope. So he recruited me to Bakersfield. He was my workout partner every single day. After our first year, Cal State Bakersfield, we took third in the country in 1996. It was Iowa State, Cal State Bakersfield.
I mean, that's so unheard of.
Is unbelievable. Our coach got head coach of the year, and Daryl Pope got assistant coach of the year. Well, following that year, Cal State Bakersfield had budget cuts, and they cut his position, so he couldn't even afford to continue to be the assistant coach. Went into he became a sixth grade teacher.
Okay.
But every single day he'd come after work and he'd come and work out with me.
Wow.
The rest of my career there at Bakersfield. And so just for someone to not only tell me what to do, he showed me what to do. He lived it. And and that was so important for me. And just he said, "I brought you in here. I told you I'd be your coach, and I'm going to be your coach." And so when you have people like that in your life that tell you things, that they also live it, man, I'll do anything for that man. He knows it. And so it's always good to see him. And I try to pass that on, his legacy through me to other people. That's really important to me.
That's what blood time's about, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I love that. Coach Pope, we love you. We love you. I mean, it makes me so happy. And, I interviewed Lee Kemp about 4 years ago on our first. And he talked that same story about his drill partner who never cracked the lineup, but just gave him everything he could. You know what I mean? And and Lee said, that guy really helped me win my 3 national titles. And that's so beautiful to hear that. And that and the thing that I ask my wrestlers, I ask 2 things of you: pay it forward and give back. And I love that. I hear that from a phenomenal athlete like yourself, an accomplished, world-class athlete like yourself, that you're doing the same thing. And so, with Coach Pope doing that for you, and then, you're meeting the Matt Ghafaris of the world and then some of the others, and then you get into the NFL. Is there anybody in the NFL that really said, just really walked that talk with you during your professional career?
Yeah, so football is a little different as far as your coaches because they're not in there like I said, Daryl Polk. We traded smart, we banged every day, and but Dante Scarnecchia, my offensive line coach, he was very consistent. It didn't change. We had a plan, we had the techniques, and then he was hard. I mean, he was hard on you, and but we knew. I guess the way I look at it, when a coach is yelling at you in football, it's like they've spent 20 hours of that day preparing. And if you don't do exactly what they say, all that preparation is kind of wasted that he could have had with his kids and his wife. And so you kind of understand. But I think he understood too, towards the end, that I'm giving him everything I had. I had physical liabilities in my shoulders and I couldn't do some of the techniques. And he finally asked me, I think my 9th year, he's like, can you even do what I'm asking? I'm like, no. He's like, all right, I'll stop yelling at you. But I gave everything I had. And I mean, I love being part of a team and I love trying to protect the quarterback. I love going out there each week and having a game plan and trying to beat that team. And I think that was what kept me around with New England. I didn't need to be, in a spotlight. I just want to go do my job and do the best I can. And hopefully we can win. Well,
that's what that is the story. That is your philosophy, but it's also your reputation. The humility is fantastic. You just, I mean, we need so much more of that, Stephen, in today's world. Dear God, everybody's beating their chest. It's the weirdest thing for me to beat your chest in our sport. In any moment, you get your ass kicked. Yeah. When we were growing up, man, to get pinned was like, oh my God, I want to commit suicide. It was terrible. To get pinned today, you get pinned, oh, big deal. It's like sort of weird to me. But that said, the other thing too that always was an interesting thing for me was, 2-a-days were tough, right, in football, but wrestling practice, man, blew those away. So was there, tell me about that dynamic at that highest level of, being on a world Super Bowl championship team and being a national champion and a world-class athlete in the sport of wrestling.
As you know, in wrestling, there's no breaks. So you're going, and if you get tired out there, you gas, everyone knows it. And that's like most embarrassing thing when you just break out there physically. Yeah. So that allows you to train at a higher level. Sure. I remember the first training camp, and they've changed the rules a ton now. So I don't think you can even have back-to-back double days.
Right.
You can't hit. But the first year I was there in 2001, we had double days, full pads for like a week or so. And a lot of these guys are, we're all sitting in the cold tub and they're complaining. I got a big grin on my face because it's like, I love playing football and I'm getting paid way more practicing in the preseason than I got paid, anywhere else, So, I mean, I don't even know how much I made being a world champ, but being on practice squad, I got paid probably 3 times more being the worst NFL player than the best wrestler in the world. So, I was just so happy to be there. And I loved, we actually get to wear pads instead of just, wrestling. You're banging with your head and clubbing. Yeah. So having the pads, it's like, this is way better. But, I think those guys in football, they don't realize how far the body can be pushed. Some of them do, but, wrestling, you realize how far you can go. And it's like, wow, I can go far. And then you get old and you still think you can go that far. And you can,
all right.
You can't.
Listen, dude, I get you, man. I was born at 50, so I feel it every morning. But at the end of the day, our call to arms back, when I was a head coach, I just started, was 1 more minute. If you get, 1 more minute, right? And people don't get that. I remember we had this really incredibly tough practice just before the district tournament. And I looked at the kids, I go, you got that in your back pocket. 99.9% of the population that's ever walked this earth could not say that they just did what you did. And it's a beautiful thing, right? That we have that comrade, that call to and that camaraderie. When you see another wrestler out there, I was walking down in the flats, which is like kind of a area of restaurants and whatever, and walking around Bruce Baumgartner. I'm like, holy shit, dude. Hey, how you doing, man? What are you doing here? He goes, I don't know. I was just here. Just some friends from Cleveland. I came in and, it's like, oh, okay. That's pretty cool. And my wife's like, who is that? I go, oh, whatever. It's only 9-time world champion, whatever he is. So it's just funny how we are as wrestlers, right? But at the end of the day, Stephen, what are you doing now? And what does the future hold for Stephen?
Before I answer that, I want to just go back on Bruce Baumgartner.
Sure.
So when Matt Ghaffari and I were at that camp, Bruce Baumgartner had a heavyweight camp.
Okay.
There'd be about 400 heavyweights.
Oh.
So you had every single top level heavyweight was there at the camp. So talk about McCoy, Tully Thompson, Hortad was there, Ghaffari, Erickson. Every heavyweight was in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, and we all would train these kids, and we work out with each other.
Yeah.
It was just one of the most amazing things. I don't think you could do it these days, but I mean, Joel Greenlee, Justin Greenlee, all the best heavyweights were there that weekend, and it was just a really cool thing to experience. Like, wow,
yeah, a moment in time, right? That
it's amazing. So, and then he let me and Matt Ghaffari out of the camp a day or two early so we could go meet Neal and start this little journey. So pretty cool. But to back to your question, what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So I get up in the morning, usually get a little workout in. During the lunch hour, sometimes if there's Fellowship of Christian Athlete, they have meetings. And so I'll go and be a guest speaker. I show some Super Bowl rings to them.
Beautiful.
And at practice, I go to wrestling practice. We have practice each and every day.
Sure.
And I really try to help these kids realize their pathway to victory. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
When you're wrestling someone better than you, there's still a pathway to victory. It might be really small, but there's a pathway. You're wrestling guys that aren't very good, you have a bigger pathway. So just kind of understanding that and then trying to have a good idea of what they can do. Because, you want to look, Rulon Gardner, who gave him a chance? He had a very thin, small pathway, and he stayed in there, and he found a way to win. So everyone's going to have their moves and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes it's like, this guy's stronger than you, don't tie up. You have more speed. Stay on the outside. And then trying to get those kids to trust you. Because, you're in the match, you're not thinking as much as you probably should be. You're out there grinding.
Sure.
So in the corner, you can kind of help them to get in the right spaces. So that's what I really enjoy doing with those kids and just building the relationship, letting them know that whether they win or lose, I still got their back, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And wow, what an example. Rulon Gardner beating the literally unbeatable, it's a stunning story. It's like the hockey team from 1980 beating the Russians, it's just like, wow, and so, Stephen, I wanted, because I have such a good relation and long, 50-year relationship with Neal. What impressed you about Neal to trust him to shepherd you through at least, the negotiations and be your advocate, if you would?
Yeah. So I met Neal, and he right away, he said, I have a coach that I can get you in front of. And I'm like, okay, I believe you. And to be honest, everything he said that was going to happen, it happened. So he was like a prophet, he understands the sport. He knows what's going to happen. He knows the next step. For example, so I'll go back to a little football story and I'll try to keep it a little bit brief. But so after the third preseason game in New England, they brought me in, and there's the old pace. Hey, Neal, bring your playbook. So I show up there. Scott Pioli and Bill Belichick are sitting there.
Yeah. And
they said, hey, Steve, we got to tell you we love everything about you except for one thing. And I said, what's that? And they're like, you don't know how to play football. And I said, yeah, you're right. And I thanked them. I said, I've had a great time. This has been so much fun. And they said, well, we want to bring you back at the end of next year and teach you. So we're going to let you go. And so I flew home, and Neal calls me on the phone. He's like, hey, get ready. This thing's not over. Someone else can pick you up. And sure enough, the next week, the Eagles picked me up. So I was with Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb, all that whole crew. And I practiced with them for about 13 weeks. That was when 9/11 happened, that whole crazy year. But at the end of the year, I'm at a holiday party at Roger Reyna's house. He was the University of Pennsylvania coach. And I get a call from Neal. He says, Steve, pack your bags. You're driving up to New England tomorrow. And I'm like, I don't know, Neal. I really like it here in Philadelphia. The coaches are nice. They're not and MFing me every day. And he's like, Steve, this is the best thing you can do. It's going to give you a year as a player, because I was going to go from practice squad to the active roster.
Okay.
Next year, you're going to get second year pay. And I'm like, okay, I trust you. I go to New England. First meeting I go to, Charlie Weiss, he kicks me out of the meeting because he's trying to get everyone to be serious because I was not important to the team. Neal, quit laughing, get out of here. So I'm like, why did I come back? Yeah. But that was the year the Patriots went on that run. They win the Super Bowl championships.
Yep.
On the sideline, just going like, I was a wrestler last year watching this game, and now I'm on the sideline. It was unbelievable. But just every moment that happened, Neal knew what was going to happen, maybe with his relationship with Bill. But it's just so amazing. So grateful that he's in my life as well. It couldn't happen without him.
You know, I love Neal, and Neal and I had something sad happen to us pretty much within 2 weeks. We both lost our dads in December. And Sid Cornrich was one hell of a father. And and Neal is a testament. And Sid said, there's one thing I ask you, never besmirch the Cornrich name. Neal takes that so seriously, and I just love that whole philosophy. And, you know, we both loved each other's dads. My dad coached us. He was our first football coach in 7th and 8th grade before it was even legal back then. You know, this is the Stone Age, the early 70s, dude. But Carmen Cimoroni, man, Carmen and Sid loved each other. It was really cool. So that said, Stephen, I just so happy that you were able to do this and bring this to our audience and Blood Time. And we come out of this crazy couple of years of the virus and all this other transitions, that's happening in our country. And we just need a little bit of inspiration. So I'm going to turn it over to you for the last word. Leave our audience with something that could inspire us, if you will.
All right. I think the amount of power each and every one of us have inside of us is so much more than we even realize. Being a Christian, I believe we are all created in God's image. Each and every one of us is the same. You know, if you think you're better than someone, that's the wrong idea. And so with that thought, if you look out into society and you see someone accomplish whatever it may be, this guy's in the NFL. NFL is tough because some people are the size of bodies are, we can use wrestling. This guy won the world championships in wrestling. Yeah. Why can't I do? You know? And so if you understand, I'm going to have a plan and I'm going to go execute and work hard at it. If you come up short, don't blame others. Either the plan wasn't good enough or you didn't work hard enough. And those are the two things I think I really focused on. Have a plan, work hard. I failed many times, but I kept getting closer and closer. And I think with that attitude of don't blame others, internalize it, you can accomplish so much. And I've lived my life, and I've definitely have been blessed with opportunities, but I haven't ever given the power away by saying, I didn't grow up in that neighborhood, so I can't be successful. And I think that if you go through life with that, not blaming others, just accepting what's going on, you can achieve a whole lot of success, whatever level that may be. And that's something I've tried to live, try to teach my kids, the kids I coach. Yeah. Because it's really unfortunate when you that referee or, this or that. It's like, no, you can't do that. You got to focus on you, and you got to focus on your plan, your attitude, and your work ethic. And I think that's going to allow you to have a lot of success.
I love that. And I interviewed both Nathan Tomasello and George DiCamillo, and both of those young men said, we fail forward and we get ourselves uncomfortable. We get ourselves comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I love what you said, because you got to look in the mirror, right? And sometimes that's uncomfortable. You're the problem. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I love that. And Stephen, it's coming from the most accomplished athlete that Lee Kemp's pretty accomplished in too. Yeah. But my God, what you've done in two sports are incredible. And I'm so blessed to have you here. And I thank you. And I loved what you just left us with. So thank you, Stephen Neal.
God bless, guys.
You too. Peace. This is Coach Cimoroni for Blood Time. We are all blood. Love to all.
I just love the mission at Edwin's. My friend Brandon Krastowski at Edwin's Leadership and Restaurant Institute brings a unique approach at giving formerly incarcerated adults a foundation in the hospitality industry. What a marvelous mission. Thank you, Brandon, for bringing these wonderful people back into productive society. Every human being, regardless of their past, has the right to a fair and equal future. Give them a try because their food is magnificent, their service is first rate, and Brandon is a true Cleveland light. EdwinsRestaurant.org. We love you. We want to thank my good friend Kevin Goodman, the managing partner at Blue Bridge Networks, as our newest partner and sponsor. Please reach out to them for all of your managed IT services needs, cloud computing needs, data center services requirements, and all infrastructure solutions services. Kevin Goodman and Blue Bridge Networks. Seek them out at 1-866-990-2583. That's 1-866-990-2583 and at info@bbnllc.com.